right, leave your questions, everyone. Let's listen to one more little bit of this song, and then we'll get going, all right? Let's go! So much energy. All right. What does it actually mean to pay it in advance? I want you to think about this for a second. All right. Because if you were to ask like 100 people, like, what does success mean? Each person would give a different answer, right? So that's sort of the framework of understanding this, because the majority of people, particularly, I would say in our space, like in the dancing space, it's a unique category of people. And most people don't understand what they want, first of all, but they can't also define what success means to them, let alone how to know when they've won. One of the things I always encourage my students to understand when they're learning to dance is that it is a quest, not a journey, right? So a journey would be if you were to go from Sydney to Los Angeles, you know that you have a pre-destined destination, right? So you know what time you're going to arrive, when you're going to be there. And yet you can go through, instead of going A to B, you could go A, B, C, then arrive at D. But you know you're going to have a final outcome of where you're going to be, all right? With dancing, it's very unique because you never arrive. This is really important to understand. You don't actually, you think in your mind you're going to get to a certain level of skill and then you've got it nailed, right? This just does not happen. All that happens, it's like the saying that don't wish it were easier, wish you were better, is very, very true. And that's what ends up happening. So like the level of your skill set goes up, you access more choreography, more routine, more crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden you have this innate sense that you're nowhere near as good as you can be. Okay. You think you would have, like 5 years ago, you're like, by the time I get to this level of my dancing, when I'm in open, when I'm a professional, when I do that performance, when I finally get all those steps down, when I learn all the steps that are involved in this dance, I'm going to be this type of person. I'll have no problems. And that's just not what happens, right? You just end up getting better quality problems. Is something I also encourage is you want better quality problems to solve. So it's like, not that you want your problems to go away. You actually want better quality problems, because a problem defined is a problem half solved. So if the problem you're looking at is low tier, it's not very good quality. So for example, you're looking to just get through your routine, for example. To me, that's like a low quality problem, because you need to get through it with, rhythm, timing, balance, coordination, performance, displaying the character of the dance, right? Feeling something in it that's positive, hopefully, partnering, all of that's there. Like, so higher quality problems would be like, how do I have more connection? How do I express more rhythm? How do I move my body in a way that doesn't look awkward, but also allows me to sort of access the musicality, right? So those are higher quality problems to try and solve, aren't they? And so this is why when you're looking at the idea of what success means, you can't limit it in the definition of being when I arrive here, because that goalpost, once you get there, is only going to expand. So it's like you've got this constant evolution, if you will, this expansion, which is a better word, right? You've got this constant expansion of yourself being sort of recognized in the process of developing your own self as a dancer. And of course, this carries through in business, this carries through in relationships, this carries through in your own body when you go to work out. It carries through. It's a basic principle of life, the way I look at it. So when you look at paying it in advance, and we look at the idea of success, and if you ask many people like what their definition of success is, they all give you different definitions. So you've got to create your own, first of all, what that means. Recognize that you don't arrive and that the goalpost will move once you get there, so it's good to have the goalpost, but recognize that that's not going to be the outcome of success for you. It will involve more. Paying it in advance means that before you can actually arrive at that first goalpost, and then of course go to the next one, you are going to have to give up quite a lot before you actually get the desired result. And this is something most people won't do. They just flat out won't. So, if I've never gone to university, but I know people that do. Let's say you're studying dentistry. You have to give up an awful lot for that to happen. So not only do you have to get in, which required its own level of sacrifice or creative ways of getting in, or outlasting people or doing better than other people in tests. You won some level of academic skill to at least get into university. You then have to compete against other people academically. You have to outlast other people because people drop out. You have to also play the game because there's also a political game. A professor could favor you for some reason over others. And, that's unfair. But you know what? Life is unfair. So you have to play the game. And then there's bureaucracy. And that's just the beginning, right? Because you haven't even graduated. When you do graduate, then you've got to play the game in the workplace. And of course, you've got to build a career. So your goalposts have moved, haven't they? But you were sold a lie. You were told that when you graduate, it'll be easy. Like now you've got security. You're okay. So by definition, you've succeeded, haven't you? But that's not true. It's not true because you recognize how much more there is to do. You get into a new workplace, you realize there's new policies that need to be written, or you get in there and realize that, hey, the way that you guys run this place sucks. But it's been this way for 30 years. Well, that doesn't mean it's being run good, right? So there's all these things that always have to happen. So the goalposts are continually shifting. But to even get a seat at the table, you had to pay it in advance, which meant for those years working or studying, you were giving up going out. Maybe you went out a little bit. Maybe you went out a lot. But to graduate, you still had to forego other opportunities to make that happen. Now, in dancing, it's the same. You want to be a certain level of proficiency, right? You want to be maybe, and I'll ask you this, what is actually something you're aspiring to in your dancing? And is it a social thing? Is it a hobby thing? Is it a competition thing? Is it a performance thing? What is the actual thing that you're aiming to develop, and what are you trying to do with your dancing? Now, of course, that it's assumed you love dancing and you're passionate about it. So great. But is there an outcome for you that you really desire that maybe you haven't told anyone about? Because if that's the case, this message is very, very much for you. Not so much for the person who just turns up to classes and, just does it for fun, so to speak. Because I don't understand those people. Because that just sort of violates the basic principle of like expansion in life. We want to get better, right? We want to move the needle in our own life. Unless you got a serious mental condition, there's not many people that don't really want a better quality life, and they don't want things within their life to have a better quality, right, to it. And that includes dancing, even if you do it for fun. So if you do it for fun, why do people quit then after 12 months? Oh, it's no longer fun. Well, that's because they don't know how to create better results in their dancing, which creates more fun in their dancing, right? By the way, if you're liking this, make sure you leave me a question, all right? Leave me a question. I'll put up a little thing here. Questions. Okay, put a question in there about your dancing so I can help you better. Now, let's keep on this because this is a good thing to know. In my personal dancing life, and I had to learn this. Someone had to help me understand how to do this. But paying in advance means that you are willing to, sometimes it's a sacrificial thing. Other times it's just understanding. It's awareness. It's being really aware that if you want a certain result, so you got to define the result you want, which, a lot of people think of as success, but you got to say, I want to be, use property as an example. So I want to buy a property. I've never owned a property. I want to buy a property. That's the goal. So now that's your result. That's what's going to happen. So for that to happen, you may have to work 2 jobs. You may need to save some additional money. You may need to get someone to invest with you, or someone did loan you money. But either way, you've got to figure it out, but you don't have those results now, right? You don't have those things now. In fact, you will have more evidence to show that you can't do that. Then you will have evidence to show you that you can. So I'll say that again in a context for dancing that makes sense. When you first learn to dance, and let's say in the first 12 months, you're like, I actually want to do something with my dancing. I would like to take this to the world level, like, which is a massive jump, right? Like, I would like to compete overseas, or I'd like to end up on Broadway or do some musical theater that isn't local, that's actually known. Well, you don't have the results to show that you can do that. And you certainly don't have the skill sets to show that you can do that, right? In fact, you will find all the evidence to show that you suck. And so you watch yourself and go, I really am shit at dancing. Fair enough. Okay. But that should not dictate how you move, right? That should not dictate the energy you put in. Now, the big problem that people make when they understand that sort of first principle thinking, that sort of lesson, so to speak, is that they start looking for the evidence too early that they're on the right track. And by the way, this is a reminder for me, just as it is for you, because it's really easy when I'm running a business, when I'm launching a new product, trying to make sales, I'm always looking for the evidence. Is this working? Is this succeeding? Are people responding? Is the market giving me good feedback? Are they voting with their money? Because that's how you know if a product's good. People buy it, right? You don't want pat on the back. You want people to buy your product. Otherwise, your product sucks, right? Because it's not selling. So you need that validation of that for it to work. The problem is you do it too early. So when you define, like, you look at a result and say, I want that result in my life. You find all the reasons why it can't happen. That's pretty easy because everyone will tell you it can't, right? That's the majority of people. And you choose to ignore them, which is yay for you. Hell yeah. And you continue to turn up to lessons, do the work, keep training, keep dancing, keep studying, keep moving forward. You then start looking around every day you're dancing for the evidence that you're getting better. And that's a problem too, because it can be disheartening, because when you pay things in advance, one, there's no guarantee it's going to mean any of your goals can come true anyway. Okay. So there's a risk in that. The second thing is that you can demotivate yourself because you start looking for that evidence, you don't see it, and you think you're the problem. Now, to an extent, you are actually the problem, right? And remember, a problem defined is already half solved. So meaning that if you know that it's on you, you could be accountable and responsible for your results, and you know that's where you're going to move, you at least have the chance to keep pushing forward, to keep moving towards the goals you want, pulling yourself towards the goals you want, and seeing that happen. But it can be demotivating if after 2 months you see no progress, no improvement, and you still got people telling you you're crazy for how much you're doing, how much work you're putting in. And it's been 2 months and you're not seeing what you want, because in your mind's eye, your outcome, your result-driven focus is, I want to be up here, I'm down here. And the gap is so big, right, that the evidence is not stacking up, and it's been months now. Maybe it's 6 months. Maybe it's 12 months. Well, guess what? Paying it in advance means that you do it without the guarantee of that outcome, but you still turn up and do the work as if you're already at that level. You understand? So if you don't do it, I don't see how you can do it any other way, to be honest. Like, you can't become a full-time success with part-time habits. So you need to think about how much you're actually willing to put in. And this is where sort of reality and expectations have to line up a little bit. So I get students a lot of the time coming in, and I'm watching them. They come in. I'm not just teaching. I'm coaching. Yeah. What's your outcome? What are you wanting to do? And we'll tailor it to that. Oh, I want to compete at Blackpool, which is, prestigious 130-year world championship, the most important festival in the ballroom dancing world. And it's like, okay, get ready to give up everything you love to do, because dancing is going to be your focus, and you're going to be doing it so much that your passion, which is for amateurs, by the way, passion's like easy, yeah? Your passion is going to burn out for dancing because you're going to do it so much. You're going to end up like almost hating training sometimes, most of the time. But that's okay, because you're going to love the result, and that's what's going to keep you going. And then the purpose is going to fuel you more than your passion eventually. But get ready to stop drinking, exercise more, eat right, turn your lifestyle into a dance style, because you're essentially going to live, eat, and breathe dancing and training. Everything, all decisions you make are revolving around your ability to be able to train that day. And then you will be training virtually every day, and you will not be having holidays, because that's what it takes to become a professional who's worth their merit, who can actually compete on a world stage. And you need to make that decision well in advance of any guaranteed outcome that can happen, years before it can happen. And then you have to do that for years. And that's what paying in advance means. And most people will turn around and say, oh, you got to this level because you're talented. I'm like, bitch, just because my teeth are shiny and my hair is like perfect, okay, I'm assuring you, I had to give up a lot. And I don't even consider myself the best dancer, right? Like, I love dancing. I love movement. I love results more than anything. I love to try and challenge myself to see, can I do that? And that was sort of what my thing was with dancing. You know, when I was a teenager, there were three things that I was always very adept at sport. So I know that I was better than the average person, but I still had to do the work. But snowboarding was something that I was very good at. I was a captain of a snowboard team. I used to race every weekend. I was one of the fastest in Australia for a few years, in the top 3. I was on a AFL football selection squad. So what do they sort of pick you out, put you in a training camp that then goes into like the professional AFL. I found that boring as batch. I did the first training. I was like, this sucks. Like, I didn't like it. It was too serious and wasn't for me. Didn't resonate. I had all this sort of, I suppose, athletic success, if you will, okay, as a teenager. And with dancing, I always looked at it and went, this is so unique, right? Like, there's movement, there's artistry, there's pretty ladies, right? There's travel, all these things bundled up. But it was so difficult for me. Like, wow, I could gravitate towards training in other styles and other things, but dancing, man, this thing it did not come naturally, especially after the first year, right? And that sort of pulled me in. That's what I'm encouraging for you. Like, just because you're good at the thing doesn't mean it's not the thing you shouldn't pursue and go for. Like, again, you don't look for that evidence to support your theory about yourself that you're shit. That's easy to find, yeah? You sort of look within. And so I've made that choice a lot through life, and I've made the choice to ignore it, and that's always been a problem too, is you follow those gut vibes, right? About this is a good thing to pursue, and you'll also know when it's time to stop. This is also how you know when to take yourself off that quest of the path you're on, okay? It's a message for another time, but knowing when to quit is actually very, very important. So one thing people fuck up a lot about success is they think that they shouldn't quit. You should absolutely quit. In fact, by definition of saying, I want to be this good at a thing, and I'm going to say no to every other infinite possibility here, and here, and here, and here, and here, I am also saying that I'm quitting on all those things as well. And part of paying things in advance is you're going to recognize when, after a year of doing something, okay, maybe you're not as good as you think. Well, guess what? You need to change your strategy, which is also quitting on the former strategy. So quitting's totally fine. Now, when you quit dancing completely and stop doing it, that is the message for another time. But to pay in advance, you are absolutely going to become very good at quitting other things. The counter argument to that, of course, is that, the cliche saying, I suppose, is like, quitting doesn't make you, what is it? You're never a failure unless you quit, so to speak. So my thinking around that has always been, you don't look at quitting dancing, you look at quitting how you're doing it, because maybe it's drained the life out of you. It's getting boring and mundane. So just change up the way you do it, which I've had to do several times throughout my own dancing quest, right? Okay, so by the way, remember, leave some questions up in here. I would love to answer and help you. Yeah, thanks, Rich. I'll get to those in a second, all right? But keep them coming. All right, so there's always a launch point, right? When you're looking at dancing, when you're looking at doing anything that you want that's of merit to you. And by the way, it's got to be for you. You can't do this because your partner wants you to, because they're more motivated than you or more pumped to do it. You can't do it because your mum wants you to. Right? Don't do these things for other people. Do it for yourself, right? You're never going to work harder for anyone else than for yourself, right? But there's always a decision moment and a jump-off point. Now, I don't necessarily think it's always a conscious decision, but it'd be great if it could be. You are really looking to follow that intuition. This is something I want to do, and follow it. When that launch and jump off point comes, you got to go all in, right? You really have to see yourself in your mind's eye as already the person that you're looking to become, and then sort of reverse engineer how to get there. And so this is what I did. Around about a year into my first group classes and whatnot, I did a medal. My first medal exam was horrible. I got a pass. There's no fail. There's pass, highly commended, and then, it goes up from there. So basically like 50 to 60% was my score. That is so bad, right? And I remember seeing that going, that was embarrassing. I don't want to be like that again. And then the next year, I got honors, right, up in the 90%. So 12 months later, I jumped up into that category. Now, I know myself, I was not a good dancer then either, right? So a year didn't make me this fantastic wonder boy. I was still bad, really, really bad. But that showed good improvement, so that's nice. But I also remember a pivotal moment where I was sitting in a competition. This is why I think it's really important to put yourself in environments where people are way better than you. Drop your ego. Look at what other people are doing that are crushing it. And I remember watching this dancer. I was like, my eyes were fixated on him. And I was like, dude, I did no idea guys could look masculine when they danced. Okay, because I had to sort of get over that problem. I had no idea how good you could become as a dancer and how good it could look. I want that. And I remember seeing that, go, what do I do for that to happen? How do I do that? And the natural answer was more lessons, right? More private lessons, more group classes, and train your ass off. I was like, wow, the 3 things you have to do to make it work. It's like an epiphany, So that's what I did. I started doing, within the next year, I was doing 5 private lessons per week, 5 to 6 group classes per week, training 5 to 6 days per week, no holidays, training all to do what? Competitions and medals. So doing 20 to 30 competitions per year. That is not a small amount. I had to go from my hometown of Canberra and travel to Sydney and then to Brisbane and Melbourne because that's where the competitions were all the time. Now, on the parallel to that, I was in the real estate business, starting off as a PA and working my way up with the gentleman I work with. We ended up sort of partnering together on lots of work throughout many years of working together. So that's a demanding job because they require you to work 7 days a week. So I was doing that and in a sales role to make money to fund the dancing. So the two had to work. Now, by the way, in both instances, you have to pay it forward. If you're in a commission job, you don't go out and get $10,000 and $25,000, $30,000 deals knocking on your door in a week. You got to build the pipeline. It takes time, right? It takes months to get that going. Then you get 1 or 2 sales after 6 months of work. The whole time you're questioning yourself, am I good? Am I God doing the training? Like I'm no good at the sales. Like people are rejecting me all the time. So you have to get over that. The fear of abandonment, right? You got to get past that. Then 1 sale comes in. So there's some evidence you're doing well. But then the next month, maybe 5 sales come in. You're like, oh, that's awesome. So now I've got 6 in the last 2 months. Then month 3, maybe you get 2 more sales. Then maybe nothing. Then maybe 10, So all of a sudden you build this, out of nowhere comes this momentum, right? Now, where did it come from? And this is the thing that people miss all the time because they're looking for the results now, immediately, like instant gratification, not knowing with their inner eye of understanding, paying it in advance means that you're willing to do it without the guarantee of any result for an unlimited period of time, okay? Because you don't know how long it'll take for that thing to happen, right? If you talk about manifestation, you have no idea how long a goal can take. You can only take control of the action, right? The step, the thing you're trying to do. And that's what you and I have the control over. What is that thing you can do? I can turn up tomorrow and I can train harder than I've trained before. I can do an extra hour. I can do an extra 10 minutes. I can do an extra class. I can do Uber Eats to get the money to run the extra class. Like, don't give yourself bullshit reasons that you can't. That's the whole part of finding an excuse. You know how easy that is? Well, you just found one. Don't have the money. Okay, but that's a problem. You've identified it. Now solve it. Because you've identified it, you've already half solved it. It's very easy to solve. Go and make some more money, right? And so you see how you screw yourself, yeah, with going for what you want. I do it too, don't worry. So, I'm not flawless here, but this does work. So those two parallels of working real estate, working towards dancing, and dancing being much harder because in this sense, the only validation you get that you're getting better is you moved up the ranks in dance sport. Because back then you had to win 5 championships or 5 competitions. So you get a point every time you won. And I think it was a competition. If you won a championship, you got 2 points. And if you won a national championship, which was very hard to do, you automatically elevated a grade. So you had to win 5 first places to move up 1 rank. And then you had to do that 5 times to get to amateur. So that's 25 first places, 25, not second places, first, to get to open grade. In 3 styles. So you had to get 75 first places to get to open grade. I did that in 5 years. 5. Okay? That is a big shortcut. How? Well, I got a shitload of second places and an unimaginable amount of last places, okay? And not even making it through the round. So what I've trialed and errored works because the momentum, just like in commission sales, builds up. Eventually, what happens is you see nothing for ages. And then, boom, like the results start flying in. All of a sudden, you're like first that weekend, first the next weekend, and back you're in the next grade. Now you start at the bottom in the next level. So you've elevated from E grade to D grade. Now you're the bottom in a much better pecking order, yeah? Then you do the same thing. You do the same, you re-strategize your training, and you keep turning up to the comps. And hey, I'm going to tell you something. Half the secret with like winning is actually just outlasting your competition, because most of them quit because they can't handle this, right? Which is why success is a pyramid, right? The best, the small echelon that make it in any field right up there, they outlasted the others, that's for sure, for various reasons. They also have acquired the skills to get there. So that's, it's not to mitigate anything, but half of it's just outlasting people too. So when you get to the next level, you play the game again. You do the same, you do the training, re-strategize, you move, and then bang, guess what? The momentum builds again, you start winning, you get to the next level. And by then, you're moving yourself up the ranks in time, but you also can condense the time it takes to move up because the skills you're developing also have a compound effect, right? So we've all experienced the compound effect in different ways. Some of you do it with investing. Everyone does it with superannuation in Australia, where you put in 30 grand into your super, but all of a sudden it's worth 40,000, all right? And you haven't put any extra money in. Well, that's compounding, yeah? Or that 30,000 or the 300,000 you put in the bank turns into 900,000 over 30 years. That's compounding, yeah? So you haven't earned 900, your 300 has earned 600, right? Well, we all do this in different ways. Skills do this too. So this is why part of what you want to look at, if you want to take away from this, is, okay, where are you going? You're willing to pay in advance. Now, what is the major skills you have to develop? Because not all skills are good, right? Not all of them created equal, I should say. So, for example, it is way better to focus on feet, right? Footwork, the fundamentals of how your feet work when you're learning to dance, than it is in the early stages of dancing, like the first 3 to 5 years is what I'd say the early stages, as well as other things, of course. But let's just say you 2 years solid on feet. Footwork, foot positions, how to use them, turn them properly, close them properly, all that jazz. Go up and down in ballroom, position them correctly. Of course, you're doing everything else, posture and arms and all that, but you're really focused on that. That skill is going to help you compound when you look at developing your upper body rhythm, when you look at arm styling, when you look at expression through like your physicality and your movement, because you've got a foundation, right? So those things sort of stack on top of each other. Whereas if all you did is turn up in class and just move your body like a sea cucumber, right? And get your hands like kelp, and you just like, I love dance, I'm gonna just throw my body into it because I'm moving with feeling and I'm not worried about that technique shit. It's like, okay, cool, that's fine. You can do that for 5 years. You're not going to look very good though. You might feel better, but you're not going to look very good, yeah? So the compounding of skills is a real thing. But again, it takes longer and it's not as obvious. Just all of a sudden, one day you realize you're in a better, higher rank. One day you realize you move faster, that, oh, wow, that song isn't too fast. I was too slow. And now I'm moving in time with the music and it feels easy, right? So takeaway from today. What is it that you want with no guarantee of actually getting it? What are you willing to let go of for it to happen? And something I didn't really touch on today, but who are you willing to let go of? And who are you willing to bring in for that to actually occur? So with that in mind, I'm going to go through some of these questions. And it's been awesome having you here. Thank you for staying with me as we went through that, all right? So let's look at let's look at this. Yeah. What's up, Go? All right. I just learned 1 month ago. Welcome to the dance world. And I'm having problems stabilizing myself when I do the natural turns with swing and rise and fall. Yeah. Okay. That's your feet, man. Well, first of all, swing is great. So there's 2 ways to dance. There's 2 ways. What is this? What is this madness? Why are there balloons on my screen? Is this a Facebook thing? Oh no. Why are there balloons freezing my screen? Did someone hit the button? Anyway, I'm going to get to these answers anyway. I don't know what is happening. But I might just go to my FaceTime camera. I'll just let that thing just sit there. I don't know. What the hell was that? Did somebody press something? Here we go. Let's get this camera here. Boom. Okay. So this will help me answer the questions. Okay. So, so go. Give me a quick second here while I just make this a little bit easier. When you look at stabilization in dancing, I have a video on my YouTube channel you need to watch, and it is about, wow, Oompa Loompering. I look like an Oompa Loompa. And it is about stabilization and balance, right? So stabilization and balance is basically feet, postural principles, center of gravity. Center of gravity is like your belly button, right? So getting your feet over your center of gravity, correctly positioned of your feet, okay? So when it comes to, say, your natural turn in ballroom dancing, and you're thinking of swing, there's 2 ways to dance. You can step, which is what most people do when they first learn to move, or they swing their body. Now, rising and falling is elevation in your feet, your legs, and your body, right? So it's, heel toe means you're going from the heel to the toe. You're rising up through your toes. You're rising up through your legs, rising up through your body. When you lower, toe to a heel, you're lowering through your foot and your leg and normally your body, right? So not always through those 3 things, but let's just say it's through your feet. Now, when you're closing, I'm going to give you something to try. I want you to just focus on closing your feet correctly. And when you do that, I want you to, if you're wearing a tie, to have that tie be over your toes, just slightly over your big toe, right? So your feet are closed. You got to picture this. And your body is slightly forward because you're angled forward. That's important because with balance, you're either in the middle of your feet when you're walking, right? So you put your feet together, your weight's in the middle. If you put your weight in the heels, you fall backwards. And if you put it forward, it should be slightly forward. Your weight goes into the balls of your feet and slightly to the toes. That's where you need to be. When you close your feet completely together, and again, check out my video on ballroom footwork, or better yet, my masterclass, which is on ballroommastery.tv. You will see that if the feet don't close, you lose balance because your center of gravity will be in the wrong position over your feet. So you close them properly, right? Your weight, your upper body has to be held forward. And that's the thing I'm going to ask you to focus on. Now, if you still find you wobble, then you're not holding your waist, your body properly in your abdomen. So that's a postural problem, right? Meaning that you should feel your belly button. Try this. Sit in a chair, bring your belly button to your spine. All right, when you bring your belly button to your spine, you automatically put your posture in the correct alignment, okay? Anyways, so when it comes to losing balance, you lose balance for really a couple of reasons, and I'll give them to you so everyone can learn from this. Bad technique, so i.e. what I just said with the feet. Bad posture, so you hunch, which throws off your weight. You collapse through your pelvis, which throws off your weight. Your head is in the wrong position, which throws off your weight, right? So those are all postural principles. Choreography that's too difficult. You don't have difficult choreography. That's basic movement. But choreography that's too difficult and you can't execute is going to do that. So it's basically the three things that are going to cause you to have bad balance. Now, of course, your partner can push you off, right? And that's a lead and follow thing. But that really comes back to a balance issue that we can talk about later. Anyway, so feet closed, get your weight in the right position. Watch my video on posture and feet on Ballroom Mastery YouTube channel. All right, Rich, what's up, Rich? How much will it cost me to learn to dance with women? My mind went to a dark place, my man. Sweep them off their feet and get lucky, if you know what I mean. Maybe we could find Mrs. Goodbar in the process. Rich. My man, do not dance for the ladies. Dance for yourself. The ladies will come to you. All right? They will pick up that you're there to try to pick them up, yeah? So, become so good that your dance card is always full and you will be fine, all right? But to learn to social dance is pretty easy, man. Like, you just turn up to the studio, turn up to the classes, and do the work, you know? Get in there. Do some private lessons. That's the fastest way to move forward in dancing is private lessons, for sure. Group classes only move at a certain speed. Even if they're advanced, they're not really advanced, right? Advanced would be if you work with a pro and if you're in an advanced group class, it's really an advanced beginner level, which is good. Like that's a hard level to get to, but it's not advanced actual dancing. So you can only go that level with like private tuition, so to speak. So do that. But I would just be really careful. Like men have this problem a lot of the time of putting out like the desperation cologne, right? Like just spraying that shit on, and they got their like 7 buttons deep shirt with the chest hair out and like the gold chain, and they're like in there trying to be a ladies' man. It's like, look, let your skills speak for yourself, and that's more attractive, right? So you want to attract rather than repel people, yeah, just generally, okay. So it's sort of like it's like Better Call Saul, you know. I love that show, and he's like a dodgy lawyer. Like he wears like the lime green suits or like the really disgusting suits. He's on the bus stop ads. He's an ambulance chaser, and you know, quite repellent. You don't really want to be like that, yeah. In the dance world is full of people like that. So you'll sort of stand out if you approach it from a slightly different angle, and you have the confidence in yourself. And then you sort of move that way, okay? I always thought, like in a dance shoot, I should like advertise. Look, to be fair, man, I'll just say something about meeting people. If you want to meet the next Mrs. Goodbar, the dance space is a great place to do it, dude. Like, because there's more women than men, okay? Because where do people meet? Right? Think about it from a proximity perspective. There's the workplace, which is like, you know, these days is like frowned upon because of all the things that can go wrong there, and harassment, all that crap, and false charges and all sorts of stuff. So it's complicated, right? So a lot of people aren't going to meet in the workplace. So where is there? Bars? Okay, really? Like, you know, that's probably not the best place, you know, for meeting someone long term. But you know, it can happen. But it's probably not. Chances are low. So what? The gym? Okay. You better have good day game if that's how you roll, right? So where's the place? Dance places, man, because like there's just so few dudes who do it. I mean, I had a class tonight though. I had a man. What's it called? I had a woman famine, right? Normally it's a man famine. I had more dudes than women. I'm like, oh my god, I need to advertise this. But then I'm like, the problem is if you start telling dudes that there's women in the class to dance with, you get the wrong men coming, yeah? That's one of the problems. If you tell women there's a lot of men in the class, I don't know if I'll get more women necessarily. All right. Ashley, how vital is physical fitness to dance? What would you recommend focusing on in the dancer's gym routine? Lots of dancing. So physical fitness. Well, listen, I reckon the best dancing, who are talking about this yesterday, I think, to a student, like the best type of dancing is vertical dancing. So that's good, right? But the intensity of the dancing. So for example, like you won't this won't pertain to you, but losing weight through dance is actually easy. But most people won't do it to lose weight, right? Because the level of intensity has to be so much. So for example, if one thing I did and actually do is if you just do like a full song of samba, and you do it so intensely that you can't keep going at the end of it, you're gonna have 6-pack abs, right, for summer. Of course, you're a lady, so don't get abs. But you will get fit. Now, one thing with dancing and gym routines is they don't matter until you're a high-level professional, because then you're training with you've got a specific routine that is given to you by a professional in a gym setting for the outcome of becoming a dancer. Like it's the proper weight routines and all that sort of stuff and dynamic exercises for dancers to build certain muscle groups, right? To build them to a certain way so the training is more effective. Because fundamentally, guys and girls, just dance more. That's all you got to do. You know, like people ask at my members community, what exercises should I do for my dancing? Dance more. Is there benefit in doing yoga for dancing? Sure, it's going to make you more flexible, but you're not going to become a better dancer doing yoga, right? Should I do more swimming for dancing? Well, yeah, it's going to improve your cardio output, so that's good. But it's not necessarily going to translate to dancing better, right? Because the skill of dancing involves brain, the neuromuscular connection, the skeletal system, the nervous system. Everything is moving in 3D, right? And it's intense. So unless you're like actually a high-level professional, you just, nothing beats just intense dancing. That's it. Like, and I think it gets overcomplicated a lot because people get excited, right? They're like, oh, I love dancing, so I want to be better at it. So it makes sense if I go and become fitter over here. But CrossFit doesn't make you better as a dancer. Now you've just wasted an hour doing CrossFit when you could have put that into more dancing, right? But again, it just comes back to today's message. Like, what's the ultimate outcome? If you're social dancing, if you are somebody who loves to just go out and randomly dance with some awesome dude, then you don't need to have that level of intensity because you're doing it for the fun and the right reasons, okay? So it depends what the outcome is, yeah, and how hard you want to go. And I'm pretty sure you want to go pretty hard, right? Just based on your interactions. So what the hell is balloons, dude? That is the most random comment on here. Great. Balloons. Balloons for you. Yeah, there were a lot of them though. Did someone send them though? Or is that like a thing like just destroying my camera? Anyway, so the balloons are still there. Yay. Anyway, you'll rock. I appreciate the comments and questions, everyone. If there's any more, let me know. I've got no idea what's going on with those things. But that's going to wrap the show for the day. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here. And again, visit ballroommastery.tv. Get on the RSVP list for Ballroom Mastery Academy, okay? This thing is a 6-week course that I do with, I've got a whole bunch of new students in there at the moment, and it is awesome, right? I've got people who have danced for 30 years who are like, holy Lord, I didn't know any of this stuff, and I really wish I knew it earlier. And I'll give you a little sneak peek if you need to know a bit more, but you need to be on the list, okay? Thank you all. Let's get some music to get out of here. Leave your questions. Balloons.